Autosport 2015 show. I'm your host, Don Kay. We are live from McGilvery Speedway, 30th and High School in the beautiful town of Speedway, Indiana. And we are presented by Honda. In 1993, Honda spearheaded entry into the Indycar racing, and Honda Performance Development has overseen successful racing efforts at all levels of the sport, from karting and quarter midgets to Indycar and prototype sports cars. HPD offers race engines and competition products for professional, amateur, and entry-level racers. For more information about HPD and the company's racing product lines, please visit hpd.honda.com. That's hpd.honda.com. A couple things to mention. As I have mentioned on several occasions in the last 3 or 4 weeks, most of you have noticed that I was getting the nickname Step and a Half. I have been seeing Dr. Rob Schroeder up at the Indy Health and Fitness, and that's where Pit Fit is, and he has made a dramatic difference. The pain is getting less and less, and I can walk and almost look human. Not quite, but almost. He's located at 8660 Guyan Road. It's just north of 86th Street on the left-hand side of Guyan Road, about 1,000 feet off of 86th Street. You can call his office, make an appointment. Now, he will tell you if he can't help you, he will send you to someone who can. But his number is 317-388-8755. For those of you who have probably heard of and been maybe a part of Racing for Corey, it is a charitable organization that is set up in Corey's name. He was an avid race fan. At the age of 9, with the help of Tice Carlson, he got his dream to come true. He got to ride in a quarter midget race car, and he was thrilled to death. There is a charity event fundraiser for him that will be held on December the 3rd. The time and location will have to be told you because the information that we got today doesn't say. But since it's December 3rd, I have a feeling we could probably come up with a date and a location. So keep in mind, it's a 501c3, and anything you do, pay to join it or to purchase anything is tax deductible. I want to also mention that the Midwest Old Timers Vintage Race Car Club is having a banquet Saturday night at Jonathan Bird's Cafeteria on the south side. It's $30 a person. You pay at the door. It starts at 4 o'clock with happy hour, and the banquet is at 5. So any of you who are vintage old-timers and would like to get together with others of like fantasies, please mark your calendar this Saturday. Starts at 4 o'clock at Jonathan Bird's on the south side. It's $30 a person. Pay at the door. My first guest is a gentleman that I have been pursuing, but unbeknownst to me, he's been hiding from me till he had something really worth talking about, which he now has. He is the development director for Indycar of the Mazda Road to Indy program, and for those of you who follow it, you will know that it is doing extremely well, and it's succeeding to accomplish what they set out to accomplish. Please welcome my guest, at long last. He's finally here, Mr. Jason Penix.
Thank you.
Now, you told me on a number of times that I've called you and you took the time to call me back that you wanted to wait until you had something to talk about. Then I walk in and say, everything I had to talk about went away. That's not true. So how are things with the Mazda Road to Indy program?
Things are going really well. We obviously just announced our schedule for 2016, which has been exciting. The USF 2000 and Pro Mazda Series announced their chassis of the future. So that's exciting as well. And so there's a lot of momentum. We'll get ready to test our first test as the Kris Griffis Memorial Test at Circuit of the Americas in November, the 21st and 22nd. So lots of good stuff happening right now in the Mazda Road to Indy.
When do the new cars come out? Are they both coming out at once for the USF 2000 and the Pro Mazda, or are they coming out one at a time, 1 year after the other?
Yeah, they'll roll out 1 year after the other. So USF 2000 will be 2017 and Pro Mazda in 2018. And the special thing about this chassis is that, or I guess I should say the tub, is that the tub will be used for both series. So if you're a USF 2000 team that has this car, then you can move up in 18 with that same car and you're fine.
was there a competition like was for the Indy Lights to build a car, or did the Road to Indy program select a builder who has got a lot of experience in these type of cars?
I mean, Dan Anderson led the charge primarily on that, but there were multiple bids for the chassis, and ultimately he selected what he thought was best, and that was the Tatis chassis. So it's the first time that I've personally worked with those guys, but I know Dan's worked with them in the past. So should be a great car, a great group, and we're ready to get rolling with it.
How many races are there in the Road to Indy program this year, coming or next year actually?
Yeah, Indy Lights is going to expand to 11 events and 18 races. That's up from 10 events this past year. I believe F2000 and Pro Mazda will be right around 8 events. They do doubleheader weekends on pretty much everything they do, minus the Lucas Oil Raceway out here. Indy Lights will be doubleheaders everywhere with the exception of the ovals, which will be Phoenix, Iowa, and Indianapolis.
Hang on, there's an echo. That should be better, yeah. Okay. From all things that I look at and see and hear and talk to, the program is working extremely well. The idea to build drivers from the 2000 up to Pro Mazda, moves to Indy Lights, and then on to IndyCar is working exactly the way it's designed. I got to think Dan is happy with that.
Absolutely. I think the last stat I saw was that in last year's Indianapolis 500, 20 of the 33 starters were Indy Lights graduates. Not necessarily recent graduates, but I think 13 or so have been recent graduates since about 2010. So it definitely is working. Guys are definitely making their way to the top, and that's what it's designed to do. So Mazda, IndyCar, Anderson Promotions, everybody's really thrilled with the progress of the whole system.
Now, Dan owns USF 2000 and a Pro Mazda series, does he not?
Correct.
And IndyCar still owns Indy Lights program.
Correct.
Is he likely to say, I got a present for you, Mark, here's Indy Lights program, or does he want to keep it? Does he want to buy it?
I think Dan's happy with the arrangement we have right now, which is IndyCar still owns Indy Lights as a series, but Dan and his team operate that series, and so I think it's worked very well. I think the proof is there in terms of what we've seen the last couple of years, and the new car that we unveiled last year, the IL-15, has been a super success for us, and there's no signs of that slowing down, so that's exciting. And I think everybody, Dan, IndyCar, Mazda, everybody's really happy with the current arrangement.
I had Zach Veach here last week, and I said, or he said, and I listened, that this was the first time he'd been in a car in a year. And I said, so the last car you drove was the old Lights car, and now this time, this 2 days ago, you were in the new one. He said, yeah. How much difference in there? He said, night and day. That the new Lights car races better, it handles better, it's faster. He was thrilled by it, and I take that from a kid that I think is pretty intelligent and a pretty sharp driver, to say that the car that was rolled out is good. It's a good car, and it races well on everything, ovals and street and road courses.
Absolutely, and Zach's probably a great person to talk to about that because he's been in the old Indy Lights chassis as well. So yeah, I mean, I can't think of a better car, excuse me, to train drivers to graduate to the IndyCar series, and I think that the proof really is guys that are starting to make the jump now. Spencer Piggott will be our first one coming out of this new car in IndyCar. He got his deal with Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan, so. Lots of good stuff, and I'm very confident in the car's ability to train drivers to move them on to IndyCar.
Now, the only question I have is, and I talked to Jack Harvey, who was here, and I said, have you got anything cooking to get into an IndyCar? He said, no. Is that going to be a problem? If a guy graduates, he's obviously a good driver. He finished twice in the series, finished second in the series twice. He knows how to drive a race car. Is there a problem with finding seats?
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to bat 1,000, right? Not everybody's going to find a seat every single year. Obviously, our priority is to help get the champion to the next level, which we've been successful in doing that ever since the program started, with the exception, I believe, of J.K. Vernay the first year. Every other year we've been able to do that. Outside of that, it's tough. If it was easy, everybody would be up there. Jack's a phenomenal driver. He's absolutely somebody that should belong at the IndyCar level, and I haven't given up hope that he'll figure something out for next year.
You're the driver development program. What is it you do? Are you a former race car driver, so you spot talent like Sam Schmidt?
In my mind, yes. No, my job really is to oversee the Mazda Road Indy program and act as that liaison between Anderson Promotions and IndyCar. I'm on the Anderson side more focused on Indy Lights than I am the other two series, just because I have some familiarity with that series from the past. So you'll find me more around Indy Lights than you will the other two, but overall it's in my best interest to see all three series grow.
Is Anderson Promotions happy with the television package they have? Would they like to improve it? Are they working on trying to improve it? And are they happy with the promotion they get, the public relations they get from the media on their series?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, from a television standpoint, for an Indy Lights and the other two series as well, we've had NBC Sports as our TV partner. Indy Lights, they show majority of the events. If it's a doubleheader weekend, they'll show one of the races out of the two and kind of recap the other one. The other two series are highlight shows on NBC Sports that are quarterly throughout the year. So I think from that standpoint, it's great. You have to have a good television partner. We're looking at all options, really. How do we strengthen that? Are there opportunities to stream the races as well? How do we really expand this to a worldwide market is our first concern. So we're looking at all those options for 2016 right now.
As I brag to you, I like to get the young drivers from that series in here. Now, the problem with USF 2000 and Pro Mazda is some of them ain't old enough. So if they come with Daddy and sit with Daddy, that's one thing, but most of them don't have Dad with them. So I talk to the majority of Indy Lights drivers who are moving up, and I want people to recognize the name and maybe recognize the face, so that when they make the move, people aren't sitting in the stand and say, "Who the hell is that guy? Where'd he come from?" Try and get the word out as to who and what they are and the talent they have and the progress they've made as they've come along. So I think that, and I know that Trackside is now following Mazda more, sending stuff out, keeping people up to date with it, which I think is great. I think it's very important for your series to let the world know that you're in existence, and it helps get sponsors because people know they're running.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head. Media is an essential part of this, and they're the ones that are going to help tell our story. So it's great to have those partnerships. We've done partnerships with Razor Magazine in the past. We actually are working with a group in Europe that helps us with drivers over there and helping us get the word out over there in Europe as well. So it's really a worldwide effort, and that's how we choose to look at it, is how can we tell our story at the worldwide level. And so all of those things help to contribute to that.
Do your drivers, and I try and tell them when I invite one, put it on your website that you're coming here, and if you've got a Twitter account, send it out. I think that's crucial. And I also have been trying to get the organization that you are employed by to pick up what we're doing and put it on the website so people that do go to IndyCar.com or Mazda Indy Road to Indy website can see, oh, there's a driver from here coming on, let's go listen to him or her, mostly hims. I'm despondent because Julia had to go back to Argentina, I think, and I never got her here. And the last time I talked to her, she said, "I'm taking class to learn to speak English." I said, "Hell, you speak better than I do now." But she had to go home, so much for that. Why are you looking so much in Europe? Aren't there any Americans that fit in these cars? Are the Americans too big or something?
No, I mean, we definitely want Americans, and there's nobody more than me personally that wants to see Americans be successful in IndyCar racing. But, as we look at the broader scope of things, we want the best drivers from around the world. So if that's a mix of Europeans, Americans, Asians, what have you, I mean, we want the best of the best, and I think we're getting there. We're not 100% of the way there yet, but again, like I said earlier, I'm really thrilled every year with the level of driver that we're sending up to IndyCar. And so as long as we're doing that and hitting our marks there, I don't care if they're American or European, we want the best of the best moving on up. It's
interesting, the guys that you do have that are coming in, they're all, the ones that I've talked to and had on the program are all quite intelligent. The interesting thing I find from almost all of them, I said, "Have you ever done anything like this before in Europe and on your web?" He said, "Never. It's the first time I've ever done this." Oh. You can tell talking to me it's the first time I've done it too, so we're kind of on the same level at that point. Have you got new teams coming in this year in any one of the three series? Are there new teams joining? I know Carlin came in from Europe last year, and I think there was another one. I can't remember who it is, but they brought in this kid, Ed Jones, and he started kicking everybody's butt to start with. And he did well. He accounted for himself very well. Have you got new teams coming in any or all of the 3 series?
We just recently announced Team Pelfrey is going to expand into Indy Lights for 2016, which is fantastic. I believe they'll be the only team that has teams at every level of the Mazda Road to Indy program, so great to have them. We're working on some things for the other 2 series, so you should see some more news coming out of those 2 here soon. But Pelfrey's the major expansion at this point.
He's been around a long time. You don't see him. Where does he lives in Florida or something, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. He's in Florida. His operation's based out of Florida. His USF 2000 and Pro Mazda teams are based out of Palmetto, Florida. His Indy Lights team will be based, it's something Beach, Florida. My mind just went blank. But another part of Florida, so Pompano Beach.
Pompano Beach. Yes. He's been around for quite a long time and done very well. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, Mac McClellan set up the first test for Sarah Fisher in an IndyCar was with Pelfrey, I believe.
I believe it, yeah. Dale's had a great history in the sport, and I know that several times in the past he's partnered with Sam Schmidt on his Indy 500 program. So I know their goal is to hopefully someday, compete at the IndyCar level, whether that means the 500 or something bigger than that, like the full season. But for now, I'm super excited that they've chosen Indy Lights to expand to because I think they'll be a great addition.
Also announced today was the testing schedule. That's for you Europeans, schedule. And it opened up to tracks that IndyCar hasn't run at in a long time, such as Watkins Glen, Loudon, Richmond. And I'd love to see them both at Loudon and Richmond, but I guess I'm the only one that does. So they're allowed to test, and you get a benefit if you own a lights team. If you're an IndyCar team and you have a lights team, you get an extra test day. Now, is there a requirement that the Indy Lights driver drive all day or half a day? Or
yeah, I think the way it's set up now is 50% of the day or half the laps. So last year we saw at Sonoma where, 2/3 of the Indy Lights field got the opportunity to test Indy cars. That day is still there. In addition, if you're a team that owns an IndyCar team that owns a lights program, such as Schmidt or Andretti, you'll get an additional day on top of that. So it's just a little something to reward those guys for being involved and hopefully attract some others to come join us.
Have you heard any rumblings there might be?
Well, I think everybody here that's tuned in probably saw that Ganassi was interested for a while and KV's interested as well. So we'll see what happens. I'm not 100% confident we'll see either one of those guys. I know that both of those programs have to focus on their IndyCar stuff first, and I understand that. So we're still growing, though. Last year we averaged 12 cars in Indy Lights. I'm fairly confident, knock on wood, that we'll see at least 14 or 15 in Indy Lights full-time this year. So it's a growth pattern that we're happy about. We're certainly not where we want to be yet, but each year that goes by, we'll keep getting stronger and stronger.
How big a staff does Anderson Promotions have? I know his daughter, whenever I've talked to him trying to get him to stop in when he's come in, I say, if you've got a meeting on Wednesday, come in Tuesday night. Well, that hasn't worked out real well. Or if you got a Monday or Tuesday meeting, stay Tuesday night and come. He said, well, you need to talk to Michelle, which I've done once before. And he said, she runs the show anyway. Because he sells drywall or something, doesn't he?
Yeah, he has a construction business in New Jersey. So altogether with Anderson, I don't know exactly how many people they have. It's not a huge group, I can tell you that. Dan, Michelle, myself, Tony Kottman's been involved with us as a project manager on the IL-15. We have a couple of race directors.
Don't forget Tammy.
Tammy as our PR person for sure. So it's not a huge group. We have quite a few people that come in for the weekend to help with tech and things like that, similar to what IndyCar does. So I would guess all in on a race weekend, we might have 20 to 25 of us there at the track.
How did you get into racing? I mean, you went to college, you graduated.
You think I did? Yeah.
Well, you said I did. Yeah. I mean, you said you did. I didn't. What did you go to school to study? Communication, education, what?
Yeah, I
you studied girls, somebody said.
Don't tell my wife.
I won't.
So I went to IU, majored in sports marketing and management, and I originally got involved with USAC as a non-paid internship through the wonderful Wanda Devon, Allenser Jr.'s mother, helped me get that. And I owe a lot to that lady for sure. But I worked with USAC, and then from there went on to intern in IndyCar, and I pretty much just never left. they never kicked me out, and I never left. So then it turned into a real job.
Well, I heard the rumor was the door was locked, and they thought you were gone.
Yeah, it's probably true. It's probably true.
Has it been what you've expected? I mean, were you a race fan to begin with, or did you acquire a taste for racing?
I've been a huge fan since I was little. I mean, my mom and my brother are sitting over here. My mom first went to the 500 in the 60s. I'm not trying to show your age here. But
she was only 8. She told me she came here, she was 4 years old. So
yeah, exactly. But no, I think maybe, from the 60s, she's only missed a couple of Indy 500s since then. So she has a long history of enjoying this sport. My brother currently works as an engineer on Joseph Newgarden's car, so he's involved in it as well. So it's been awesome. I can truly sit here and say I don't feel like I've ever really had to work a day in my life because it is my passion, and I couldn't enjoy it more than I do.
Except when I call and you got to come in here and do this and listen to my nonsense.
Well, you should feel special because tonight is IU basketball's first exhibition game, and I love those guys, and I'm sitting here, so you should feel special.
It's exhibition.
Well, I take it serious, Don.
Well, they got 3 fans for IU here. That's good.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I like the support. 4.
Oh, yeah, I'm. We'll be quiet then. There's something about racing, and I can't explain it. I've been in this town since 1960 or 61 or something, but I followed the short tracks for 20 years before that. I mean, I used to go to Rockford and Blue Island and Chicago, and I used to go down and watch Andy Granatelli when he was at Chicago Stadium running the midgets there. I've been following the sport even in drag racing when they Hemi under glass, and when Kris Karamasinas was only 50 years old. He's now 80, and he's still driving. When I first started following, he's a 50-year-old. I thought, boy, he's old. Time for him to quit, and he's still there. And he's running over 300 miles an hour, so can't take it away. But I've been around it a lot, and I can't just pack up and leave. There's something about the sport, the people. As much as a series will try and slow the cars down, they'll do things. They have tires go away so that there's a little competition. Engineers like him figure out how to make it go faster, and I think to me that's what racing's about. How fast can you go? There's a saying in the marketing business, which you would know: speed costs money, more speed costs more money. How fast you want to go? Well, if they get enough money, they go pretty fast. I got to get your brother in here. Can you tell me stories about Anton?
He knows more about racing than I do, for sure. He's a lot smarter than I am. He would be a good guest.
Yeah, but he's an engineer. No wonder.
Yeah, absolutely.
See,
one of us has made it and one of us hasn't.
All right, I'll have to hook up with him and get him in here, and I'll call Anton and say, guess what? We're going to get the straight skinny.
That's right.
And Joseph, have you seen the little videos he's making? He had that one out on Sage wearing cutoffs.
I'm giving my shirt to Sage after this show.
What the hell is he going to do, dust his house with it? It's interesting things, and I think, strangely enough, stuff like that gets to people, and they see it, and they say, well, that's kind of interesting. This is Joseph's an interesting guy. Sage, you're not sure about him. But
don't ask Ed Carpenter.
Good. I'm sorry?
Don't ask Ed Carpenter about Sage.
I won't. I'll just leave that subject completely alone. But and then, of course, you have the irrepressible James Hinchcliffe. Jeez. I mean, I'm not sure he hit the wall hard, but I think he hit it hard enough.
Yeah, for sure. It's a shame the guy doesn't have a personality.
Yeah, I know. And I think part of the problem is he's calmed down. He's got somebody else's blood in his system. It isn't his. They replaced it.
He's a lucky guy.
Yes, he is. And he is one who came through the Lights program.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it impresses me that Mazda is going to the effort that they are to put up the funding and give these guys scholarships. If you win 2,000, I forget what you get, how much, I can't remember. You win the Pro Mazda, you get enough money to move up and run the Lights, and if you win the Lights, you get enough money to run the 500 plus 2 other races.
Correct.
So that's quite an investment from them to promote the sport. And yet, other than some engines, you don't sell their cars, although I'm sure it helps sell their cars, or they wouldn't be dumb enough to be in it.
Yeah, I mean, that's their ROI, obviously, is they want to sell street cars, but their big goal is and always has been trying to get the younger market, or the younger consumer involved in purchasing Mazda street vehicles, and so they feel like a natural way to showcase that is get involved with the Mazda Road to Indy program because it's young drivers, they're influencers, and I'll tell you, I mean, between just with the motorsports paddock alone, I feel like there's a lot of people that have chosen Mazda because of this. So if you ask those guys, at least to my knowledge, they're super happy with their investment, and there's no signs of them slowing down.
Well, if they're slow down, they'll back out. Don't want that.
No, not at all.
And their commercial, isn't it their commercial goes zoom, zoom?
Yeah, zoom, zoom.
And I got to think that has caught people's attention too. So interesting, and I think it's crucial for a sponsor. You know, it's fine to say, I want to sponsor your team, but then you got to go out and spend the same amount of money and tell the world you're doing it.
Right.
And I think if you can get them to do that, it'll help build the sport just on the simple fact that people will say, well, you know, race fans are loyal. If you are sponsored by Schmutz Brothers Wax, they're going to buy it wax.
Right.
So, but you got to tell people that Schmutz Brothers is available at Walmart or somewhere.
Exactly.
And that's your job.
To an extent, not as much as it used to be. I'm more on the operations management side of things now and making sure things flow correctly day to day.
Well, you're doing a good job because I can't find you half the time, so you must be doing something. You must be busy.
I see Don K pop up in my caller ID. I just hit ignore.
I think you've been warned because there's a couple people I'm looking for. By the way, does Mark Sibla still work for Indycar?
Mark Sibla does work for Indycar.
Does he ever show up in the office, or are you on vacation all the time?
His division of the group works at IMS in that building, and I work over at IndyCar in that building. So I don't see Mark very often, but I do know that Mark puts in a lot of hours. He's a hard worker.
He must have a different phone because I call his phone, he doesn't answer.
Oh, well, I'll get on him.
Yeah, do that. Tell him I want to talk to him. I got something that might be of interest to him. I left him a message yesterday, and he ignored me, which most of them do. Probably smartly, too, I might add, but I would like to talk to him. I got somebody that has something that might be of interest. I don't know. Anyway, we look forward to the first race of the year, March 13th down in St. Pete. How much testing will your teams get to do prior to that?
Yeah, we'll do the test here at Circuit of the Americas on November 21st and 22nd. That's the Chris Griffis Memorial Test. All three of the Mazda Road to Indy Series will compete in that. From there, we're still working on things a little bit. I would say at this time we'll choose somewhere in a nice, sunny, warm climate for January, possibly Homestead. And then February, we'll probably look at going to Phoenix if we can to get some oval testing in. And then March, just prior to St. Pete, I believe we're going to try to go to Barber Motorsports Park, hit that on the way down to St. Pete so the teams can kind of hit that in one stop on the way down. So,
good idea. Saves them money from turn around going back.
That's right, because if you don't save them money, you hear about it.
Oh, really? I find that hard to believe. Well, I take my hat off to you. I call you because I think you and the series are doing very well. I think you're an asset to what they're doing. I believe it or not, I kid him, but if I ask him a question, I get an answer. And strangely enough, at the end of a day or a week, I find out what he told me was true. So I thank you for your time. Appreciate you coming by. And when you get in the office tomorrow, send me your brother's email address. I'll chase him around.
Yeah, for sure. I will do that, and I appreciate you having me on. It's always a pleasure, and enjoy talking to you and seeing a lot of old friends here.
Well, not everybody here is old. I am.
I meant you when I said old.
Oh, okay.
Everybody else are friends. You're just the old part.
I'm just old. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
And good luck on the 2016 series.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
The Driver Development Director for IndyCar for the Mazda Road to Indy, Mr. Jason Penix. My next guest is here and just chomping at the bit to come up.
Yeah.
I want to remind you tonight's show is presented by the Indy Racing Experience, where you can get the best two-seater ride in the world. If you want to see what these guys and gals love about IndyCars, take a ride in a two-seater. You can go on the website at indyracingexperience.com and find out where they're running that you can get in. And if you mention my name, Don K., you'll get a 20% discount. How about stitching? Do you need embroidering on your shirts or your towels for the upcoming Christmas holiday? Well, I've got a suggestion for you. Stitches 2 on Gasoline Alley in the Hinchman building. Call Fran. She loves to talk on the phone. Tell her what you got, what you'd like to have done, and she can take care of it for you. Give her a call. Her number is 317-271-3444. That's Stitches 2 on Gasoline Alley. Call Fran, 317-271-3444. 44. And I will mention, which I always do or usually do, is if you want to know everything that's going on with IndyCar series, whether it's in season or now in the off season, go to tracksideonline.com and subscribe. You will get PR releases for most all of the teams from the series itself and from the Mazda Road to Indy program. They're following that as well. So you want to know what's going on. You think everybody's on vacation because there's no racing? Not true. And what else? Oh, yeah. Oh, that's it. I want to remind you that if it's time for you to get insurance, I think you will be smart to do what I did, and that is to go to VP Insurance, 5004 West 16th Street in beautiful town of Speedway. Call Mike Pardee. Let him give you a quote. You might be surprised like I was and like a lot of people in here have been. You get a better coverage for less money. So give Mike a call. The number is 317-248-0070. That's VP Insurance in Speedway. Mike Pardee, 317-248-0070. And if you happen to be a fan of vintage cars, do yourself a favor. Go to svra.com and subscribe to the Vintage Racing Quarterly. It is a first-class magazine. You'll love it. And some of the cars that you used to follow as a kid, you'll find out they're still out and about and they're running. And somebody owns them and they're running them. So go to svra.com and subscribe to the Vintage Racing Quarterly. You'll love it. And the last race of the year for the SVRA is this weekend, the 4th to the 8th at the U.S. Vintage National Championship at the Circuit of Americas. If you want to see some great cars and see some interesting action, you got to get down there. That's this weekend, the 4th to the 8th, the U.S. Vintage National Championship, SVRA, in full color. Get down and see him. Now, my next guest is a gentleman that's never been here before, and probably after we're done, he'll never come back. I don't know. He has an e-business we'll have to talk about, but what he's here for is he's a writer for Trackside Online, and he also works and helps Dr. Jerry Punch for ABC ESPN. So he does follow racing. He's like a lot of us. He's goofy. He's into racing. But I like what he does. I like what he says. I would like you to please welcome Mr. Steve Wieding.
Thanks for having me, Don. I really I listen and watch all the time, and it's a pleasure to be here for the first time.
Well, I contacted you because I, for one, am impressed with what Trackside Online comes up with. You guys, all of you, seem to have the ability to talk to the teams and they tell you what's true. They don't hand you some line of hooey-dooey. And you usually get it before most everybody else does. So that impresses the heck out of me. Because when I read something that you guys have put out, I could almost take it to the bank. There's no question. I can't think of anything that's come out in the last 4 or 5 years that I'm aware of that was wrong. You probably know something was wrong, but I don't.
I'm sure
know.
we've made some mistakes, but
but how did you get on the trackside? I mean, were you standing around? And they said, "Hey, what are you doing?"
Almost, pretty much. I became a racing fan as a young kid. Grew up just outside of Toronto. Went to my first IndyCar race at Mossport. Was a fan for a very long time. Had the opportunity to go to a lot of races with my family and my dad. Moved down to Indiana to finish school. Went into sales. Sold to banks for many, many years. Financial crash happened. Started my e-business. Then in the summer it wasn't real busy, so I was looking for something to do. I started blogging for a couple different websites on IndyCar. And then the last couple of years, the guys at Trackside Online have brought me on to help them out, and I also have hooked up with ABC to help out Doc Punch in the pits for the IndyCar races.
Something interesting about Dr. Punch. I spoke to him one day. We sat down, we were chatting, and I said, "You're a doctor." "Yes." "Why are you here?" He said, "I'll tell you, I was in trauma, an ER for 6 or 7 years, and it drove me nuts. I had to get out." I said, "Well, that's a good idea, because what I like about him is when something happens to a driver, he can listen and look and know medically what the problem is. If it's bad, he doesn't say anything. If it's not, he can explain it." So I always enjoyed that. Plus, he's got to be a race nut to start with.
Yeah, he grew up just outside of Hickory, North Carolina, and actually was a race car driver and mechanic when he was in high school and in college, and then he got his medical degree. Went to Daytona Beach to start was in the emergency medical business, and then started to do the radio on the side. I think when he was growing up, he helped Ned Jarrett at Hickory Speedway in the as a PA announcer for a while, and then he got into doing the radio on MRN, and then he started with ESPN. I think he's up to the 4th or 5th longest tenured announcer now on ESPN, and I can't think of anybody I'd rather work with. Nicest guy in the world.
Yeah, he truly is a good guy, and he's approachable. When you hear Dr. Punch and all this stuff, and you think, well, he's too elevated. He's not. He'll talk to you.
Oh no, he'll talk to
me.
anybody.
He talks to me, so obviously. What do you think of the 2016 schedule for IndyCar and subsequently the Mazda Road to Indy?
It's got a lot of high points. It's got some low points. I grew up in the era where it was a mixed schedule of ovals, road courses, street courses, so I like the mix. I'd like a few more ovals, to be honest with you. But there's economics involved there, and I also grew up in the era where it was super speedways and short tracks, so I enjoyed that mix. You know, the Texases of the world are fine, but I enjoy the 1 mile ovals probably the most out of all the ovals.
Well, I saw an explanation the other day. It says we've split. Oh, really? How'd you do that? There's 5 ovals, okay. Well, we have 5 street and 5 road course, permanent and road course. I said, that's 5, 5, and 5. No, it's not split. If you want to do 10 and 10, then I'll buy that. But a road course, whether it's in a street or, it's not straight. It's not an oval. And I agree with you. I like the Milwaukees. As you have probably found out from talking to the drivers, they loved Richmond. They love Iowa. They love Milwaukee. They like the short tracks. But for whatever reason, and I have my opinions as to why it's a struggle to get people out, and we could talk for quite a while, which I have done on occasion with some of the powers that be, as to people don't go. That's your fault. It's not their fault. I have been to race. I used to get tickets to give away. And I go to a place, I would stay at a motel within 1.5 miles, 2 miles of the racetrack. Are you going to go to the race Sunday? What race? What do you mean, what race? Where? I said, it's right down the street. Didn't know anything about it. You want to go? Yeah. I give them tickets. The next year when I come back, I wouldn't give them to them. Well, that was good, man. Good. Go buy them. And they did. Something is missing when you're 5 miles from a racetrack. You don't know there's a race there.
I think they understand that, and I think, as much as the mix might not be where everybody wants it right now, I've done some research, and I'm going to be writing about it. Out of the top 20 media markets right now, this year's schedule, the races are within 2 hours of 13 of those, which is probably the most it's ever been. Which I think, you talked about having the local media promote the race. Well, the more people they have to promote to, the better it'll be.
That's true. Now, some of the street and road courses are saying, look at the turnout. Well, gee whiz, let's see. March 13th, where do people go from the north? Florida. Wow. We're in Florida. There's a race. Let's go. You got a built-in people there, so that doesn't make sense. Mid-Ohio, you have Honda, sponsored by Honda. Honda has a factory there. They have distribution there. And they get a boatload of tickets, so they bring people in. Plus, no matter what happens at Mid-Ohio, people show up. It's a beautiful place to be. Great place. You can camp, you can cook weenies, drink beer, go listen to a car for a while, and go back and drink more beer. So logically, it would work. So I would like to personally see more ovals, because that's what built IndyCar racing, was ovals.
And, losing Milwaukee, losing Fontana aren't optimal by any means. Adding Phoenix back is huge, and I think it's huge because it seems to have opened up more of a dialogue with ISC, and we all know they own a lot of the tracks. So I think you're going to see, the Richmonds of the world come back into the discussion. And we've all heard about Gateway, and Jason's brother Justin will know they were just over there testing. What was that, 2 weeks ago? About a month ago, Ed was over there testing. I had a chance to talk to Ed afterwards, and he was very impressed with the place. He said he raced there in lights, back in the early 2000s, and the upgrades they made to the facility were a lot. And the gentleman that owns it now actually did an Indy Lights race in the past. He's an open wheel guy. every time I've been in contact with them, they've been very forthcoming on what their plans are, and he's got plans to spend another $10 million to upgrade the facility. And Ed was flat out honest and said it could hold an IndyCar race today.
When they ran before, the track, as you are aware, is egg-shaped, and turns 1 and 2 were fine, but 3 and 4 are very tight. And when they ran the Silver Crown cars, they had an awful time in 3 and 4 because you had to really stand on the brakes to not hit the fence. And I'm just concerned. I don't know. Maybe he's widened that out and made it different. I don't know. I haven't been there. I haven't looked. I haven't checked it out. But if they can run there, it was always fun. It always drew a pretty good crowd. So it's good to see that one back, and I hope I'd like to see Loudon back. I thought that's a great.
Yeah, Loudon was always one of my favorite races. It would be really nice to see it back. I don't know, with Boston coming on as a straight course, I don't know if you're going to see Loudon back, but it would be nice. It's another 1 mile oval, and Indy cars were built for 1 mile ovals, at least in my opinion.
Yes, I agree. Now, Boston has been scheduled. It's on Labor Day weekend. It sounded like everything was going along swimmingly, and all of a sudden you started hearing that owners of property nearby are complaining they were never consulted, they were never this and that, and the promoter said the heck they weren't. We had meetings with everybody before all of this was put together. What have you heard? And I think you just talked to somebody there.
I actually made a bunch of phone calls on Boston today because it's, you hear everything and you get a little concerned, and it's not that it's not concerning that you don't hear it, but the way it's been explained to me is that first time street course race, there are always a lot of headaches, there are always a lot of problems, and we never hear about it. It just so happens that in Boston there's 2 newspapers. One supports the mayor, one doesn't. And the one that doesn't has taken up the charge and gone with all these stories that probably would have happened at every other street course race in the world, but all of a sudden now it's become public knowledge. And I talked to a couple people today, and they made sure to reiterate that the story's out there. They're going to use taxpayer money, and that's definitely not the case. And I've been told that they're far ahead of the commercial side of things, of where they normally are at this point in a street race. They have a presenting sponsor. They have a number of other commercial partners already in place. So, I think there's a lot of noise coming from a very few people, but you never know with some of these events, as we saw what happened in New Orleans.
Yeah, and the thing that doesn't concern me, you got a race in Pocono, they're back. You got one in Boston, and if you could get Loudon. Now, within 2 or 3 hours on any of these tracks, and some of them even shorter, is Grand Central Station. I made the suggestion, why don't you take a couple show cars in Grand Central Station, put up some big screen TV, flat screen TVs, and show highlights. The average fan wouldn't know if it was from 3 years ago or yesterday. They wouldn't recognize. Show the highlights. Put a couple gals out there in fire suits that are cut off short and pass out brochures. There's 350,000 people a day go through there. You're bound to get somebody. But they said, oh, we never thought of that. Well, that's why you pay me the big money. I did.
Exactly. I think another thing that has to be looked at with Boston and Pocono both, it's obviously being close to New York, media, but you've got Verizon as your title sponsor for IndyCar right now. Verizon is a big East Coast company. In this area here, it's AT&T Uverse is your internet and your TV. Well, on the East Coast, it's all Verizon. I think they call it FiOS. And the old New England AT&T is based in Boston, which became Verizon. So there's definitely probably a push from them that I'm sure they want to be on the East Coast, which having a sponsor involved and active, I think we all know what that does for the sport. We all saw what Marlboro could do for the sport. We all see what Honda does for the sport. So I think keeping Verizon involved is very important.
I hope so. And I think they're going to areas where there's certainly enough people if they're aware of it. Now, I was told by a couple of people I know that live in New York and in northern Pennsylvania area, I said, did you ever see any advertising? No. For Pocono race? No. I have a friend who is living in the area of Pocono within 20 minutes. And I said, has it been in your paper? No, nothing. I understand Philadelphia had some promotion, but I think, you need to tell the world because there's so many things going on that you got to get their attention. What I would do is I would say, come to the track. they put on the PA system the IMS radio network, and you will get the thrill of a lifetime. You'll get to hear Mark Janes. Now, what more could you ask for than that?
I don't think you could ask for anything more than that.
That's right.
I've been actually lucky to spend some time with Mark, spotting for him in the past in exciting places like Turn 3 in Toronto. And I tell you what, it might be the best place to ever watch a race from.
Yeah, especially 30 feet in the air.
Oh, yeah, on
it's
a
even
lift.
better. Yeah, it's even better. I liked it. Down in St. Pete, I forget what turn, coming on to Dan Weldon Boulevard, see him coming down. The cars come by, and you look in the grandstands, they're all saluting with a beer, and we're standing up there going, hello, I'm parched. But, I think that the IMS radio network does a phenomenal job of putting the race out. Hopefully a lot of people are listening and watching, and it's streamed live on the internet. When I'm stranded at home, that's what I do. I listen to the internet. And it gets the word out, and that's what's the important thing, is get the word out. What do you think the effect is of Trackside Online? Do you have quite a few subscribers? We
do. We have quite a number of subscribers. I don't know if anyone here subscribes, but
I know several that do.
I'm sure some do. We're probably more for the hardcore fan than we are for getting the new fan out, but we do some other stuff. If you're a member of IndyCar Nation, the fan club, the emails you guys get on each end of each day on the weekend comes from us. So we try and spread the word as much as we can, but we're pretty small.
Yeah, I know. There's only, 4 of you? There's one guy I don't know.
Tony.
Yeah, who's he?
Tony DeZino?
Yeah,
he also works for NBC Sports.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
What, did they throw him out of the production booth so he comes and works for IMS?
No, he does the writing for NBC Sports.
Oh, okay. But I think they do a nice job, and I think if they can put up with Jake, everything is fine. Yep. And I thought that as much as he didn't want to do it, I thought he did a great job with Zach. I thought in the booth he was phenomenal. He really
I
did
thought Zach Veach did a great job in the booth.
And he said the interesting thing that I found was, he said, you know what, I learned from watching. From up there you see things, you see what guys are doing or gals, and you learn stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing being seen the radio side and also the TV side is how much actually goes into it behind the scenes. You see and hear maybe 8 different people during a race weekend. There's for each one of those people on the TV side, there's probably 5 or 6 people in a truck turning knobs, making sure everything works right. It's pretty amazing what goes on and how it actually gets done.
Yeah, and then you figure the guy directing everything is Terry Lingner, and you say, well, geez, he's all the way from Indianapolis. How about that?
Exactly.
What do you see coming up that you find important with the series, with racing, with whatever? I noticed you got a notebook here with some, I'm sure there's some things going on that you guys are looking at and hoping are an improvement over last year.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens with the aero kits over the winter. I think the teams will have a little more time to work with them. With the test days you guys talked about earlier, they've got a lot more test days because they'll have their aero kits, or they should have their aero kit pieces sooner. I'm still waiting to hear about what happens with the Honda, and they've asked for a dispensation on making some changes to some parts that weren't part of or had been homologated for the 2-year span. We're still waiting to hear what the final verdict is on that. But I think the teams will be a little more prepared going into St. Pete than they were this year.
And I think they're going to have to step up the pace because Honda has yet to sign a contract for next year.
No, they haven't.
And next year is coming rather quickly.
It is coming rather quickly. I fully expect them to sign a contract, but it's going to be interesting to see what they've been able to negotiate in their contract. What kind of changes they can make in their contract.
Well, I have heard that even as they are, that Honda ought to pick it up next year, but, is that going to happen? I have no idea. But I think things will get worked out. I'm trying to get Will and Mr. Belly to come in here and tell me what they're doing. and how that's going. So we'll see if. And Will said he would be here. They're busy right now. I said, oh, really?
I can imagine.
He just came back from 5 or 6 days in Europe, so I guess he wasn't that busy. He went to Europe
Yeah,
to
they
watch
probably
rugby.
might be. Well, yeah, that's
He went to watch rugby. Was what I was told. What is the daily work schedule for Trackside? Do you guys, is somebody, Patrick or Joe or yourself, in contact every day and getting stories together for when you put your releases out?
Yeah, we split everything up since we all have other jobs. We all kind of take our turns on who does what when. Like today, I made a lot of phone calls. I was on the phone a lot to get some information on Boston, and I got a few other good tidbits on IndyCar that we can share here in a minute. But I probably spend 2 hours, 3 hours a day on it, and I know those guys do too. And on a race weekend, I mean, it's full bore. There's usually 2 of us now at a race, and one of us is writing, and the other one's out trying to hound stories.
And I think what I like is, in addition to what you do, you get all of the PR stuff from most all the race teams, and you put that out as well. So the fan that subscribes, and you say, I wonder what Penske's doing. I wonder what Carpenter Fisher Hartman is doing, or I wonder what, you tell them. You guys get the PR and you send it out.
Yeah, and I think that's important. If it's like I said before, we definitely cater to the hardcore fan, and I know you guys want as much information as possible, and by sending that stuff out, we don't need to necessarily write about that on a race weekend. We can dig for other stuff, and we enjoy. Don can tell you, we enjoy sharing where we get to eat. And
Patrick's big on that one.
Yeah, we try and share the whole what it feels like to be in an IndyCar race.
It's fun.
It is.
And then when you get to be 30 feet in the air and you look to your left and there's Mark Janes. Ooh.
Poor Mark.
I know. And I used to he'd call me. Are you heading that way? Yeah. Can you go up and get some ice and some water?
Yeah, I usually bring him some water. I've learned what I need to bring him.
He makes it clear. I mean, This isn't a gravy job. There's a little involved. Yeah,
Yep.
I know. I've had to take a year or so off to rest.
Well, hopefully you can join him again soon.
Oh, yeah. So you said you have some interesting tidbits from the world of IndyCar. Like what?
We talked about the schedule, and you talked about date equity earlier, and I think that's something that's really important. And I was able to dig up today that all but 4 of the races on this year's calendar actually have contracts in place for next year as well. So that's definitely a good thing, that there will be some equity and be some, there won't be as many changes, I think, in the schedule going forward.
I know that I have some articles from St. Pete Times or Tampa Times or whatever it is where people weren't happy that the St. Pete race was changed a date, because according to what the stories, all of them said they never contacted the city until it was done, which the city wasn't happy about, but apparently they realized, well, it is. And I got a lot of emails from people saying, boy, this is great. We've got hotel reservations, we got airline tickets. Now what?
Yeah, unfortunately the calendar changed this year, which messed everything up, and Easter falls that normal weekend that St. Pete is, and then the weekend before that is the sports car race in Sebring, so they didn't have a whole lot of choice, unfortunately.
Well, that's true.
And it brings the season forward a little bit, a couple more weeks, then we go 3 weeks longer.
Yeah, but there's only one race in August, and it's the last day.
Yeah, I think that's a 1 year thing. When you look at the NBCSN calendar, they've got the Olympics in August.
Yeah, that's the big hold
and
up there.
Even NASCAR has a week off in August, and I went back through their schedules to 1990, and they've never had a week off in August. So I think it's just you have to work with your partners, right?
No question. But my thought is, would I rather watch an IndyCar race or the Olympics?
Well, yeah, I think everybody here would rather watch an IndyCar race, but some people like the Olympics.
Oh, I watch from time to time. I remember when Trackside started, and I can't remember the kid's name that started. He used to work down at the county jail, Matt Schrum, yeah. And he got disgusted and left, and Patrick took it over, then Joe joined him, and then Dave does some stuff. And you have one of America's finest photographers, of course, Eric Schwarzkopf.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, trackside couldn't survive without Eric.
Of course not.
That's what he told me to say. And now you've joined it. But you mentioned that you have another business, an e-business. What else are you doing in between making phone calls?
I actually sell music collectibles and records online. I always was into music. I always collected records. When I stopped my sales job, I'm like, let's try this for a while. It worked. I'm not going to get rich doing it, but I love it. It gives me a chance to find all kinds of new music. And
so if somebody is interested in what, how far back does your music go? I mean, if I want something in the 50s and 60s, you got it? Can you get it?
I can get it usually, yeah.
Where the hell do you find it that I can not have to go to you?
You know what? It's been interesting. I haven't found a lot of new stuff lately. I don't know if anyone's aware, but vinyl is back in. It's popular again. 5-6 years ago, I could go and buy a collection of 10,000 albums for $500. I can't do that anymore. So it's getting a little bit harder to find stuff.
How do I find you? If I want to buy some records and I want to see what you have, how do I find you?
Just look for Liz Wants It on eBay.
Look for what?
Liz Wants It.
Who the hell's Liz?
It was a name that's my wife.
Oh, okay.
And it was a name that we had used for eBay a long time ago, and it stuck, and that's what we use.
So you go on to eBay and put in the search thing, Liz Wants It, and you click on it, and there we are.
You got it.
How much have you got listed there today?
Not a whole lot today, actually.
Oh, sorry I asked now.
No, it's okay.
But can I go there and put a request in? I'm looking for this record, and you could say,
yeah, you can contact me, and you can contact me, and I can see what I can find. I've probably got about 25,000 LPs and maybe another 10,000 45s in storage. So.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you know? What was Wilson's name? The one that died. No. The guy with the long hair. I can't think of it. Huh? I can't remember his name. Wilson. He was into the 70s, 80s, 90s music.
Okay.
And he had a program in Brownsburg radio station. He said, I want to be a DJ. And they wouldn't do it. I said, let him do it. He'll work for free and learn, which he did. One day we're going somewhere, and he said, you want to stop and see my house? Yeah, down in, I don't know, wherever there's a mall. I forget where it is. So we stopped by his house, and it was an old gas station. I walked in there, and he had records completely around the room, floor to ceiling. Oh, my God. I don't know whatever happened to those, but if you get a hold of those, there was a slew of them. If there was one, there was 20,000.
Yeah, Indianapolis used to be a big city for pressing records. So
Paul Wilson, that's what it was.
Used to be pretty easy to find stuff here, but it's not. It's become a lot more difficult. A lot of the 45s used to be pressed here.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I didn't know that. Where?
RCA had a big plant here. Columbia had a big plant here.
Somebody had one out off of 465 up on the north side on some street. I can't remember what. I don't remember.
I think that was Columbia.
Columbia or something, yeah. So, to keep yourself out of trouble and keep food on the table, you sell records, and then you chase around information for
IndyCar. You got it.
Oh. Do you have any trouble when you call IndyCar and want to talk to Mr. Miles or Mr. Whoever, Brian Barhart? Will they talk to you?
Yeah, for the most part, they will. I've learned very quickly that going through the correct channels is the right way to do things.
It works good, doesn't it?
Yeah, if you ask, and you've learned, if you ask questions and ask the right questions, people will usually give you the answer that you want to hear.
I find it very, very interesting. I have a lot of the drivers' phone numbers, and I'll call them and say, are you available this week? Yes, and I'll get a hold of their PR person and say, is he available or she available this weekend? And they come back and say, yes. Well, I already knew that. But you don't want to get them mad and go around them.
Nope, it's always good to go through the correct channels.
You betcha. Have you ever had the urge to do what you're doing for trackside with sports cars or anything? Or done anything?
We've talked about doing that, but I think at heart we're all big IndyCar fans, and it's hard to write about something when it's not your full profession that you don't love. I do have a communication degree. I took journalism classes, I took PR classes, but I was in sales for 15 years before I started doing this, so I wasn't in any way, shape, or form a journalist, and I don't think Tony DeZino's a journalist, but the Joe and Patrick and myself, we all are not journalists, so we want to write about something that we love.
And Patrick, when he's on the road, likes to talk about food.
Yes, Patrick always likes to talk about food.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm sorry. Did I say something I shouldn't have? Oh, I don't know. I thought somebody yelled at me again. Well, I find that the job that Trackside does is top shelf. I think you guys write more accurately. You get more information that's accurate than some of the nationally recognized writers. I think Kurt Cavan does a bang-up job. I think
Kurt does an excellent job.
An outstanding writer.
Kurt reports it, you can trust it.
Yep. And I encourage people, if you haven't subscribed, it isn't that expensive, believe me. And for what you get, you go, geez, Louise. If you want to know what Penske's up to, find out. You want to know what Ganassi's up to, they'll tell you. You want to know what Carpenter, Fisher, Hartman's up, they'll tell you. I mean, you guys cover it all. You get the PR reports that come out. They send them out to you. You get to read them. So at least when you go to a race track, you're not saying, who the hell is that guy? Well, you know, because they'll tell you. And how do you sign up?
You can go to www.tracksideonline.com, and I believe it's on the right-hand side. There's a sign-up button. And it's $22 for 12 months worth of emails, and it's pretty cool because it's customizable. You know, we started to do a lot more Mazda Road to Indy reporting in the last year, and I actually really enjoy doing that. But if you don't want to get those emails, you don't have to. You can turn them off and unsubscribe to those. If you just want to get our weekend reports, you can just get those. So it's very customizable. And, you know, I appreciate everybody that does subscribe. We all love what we do, and, you know, we love getting emails on what you guys think about what we do, and any questions, too. If you send us a question on the weekend, we'll get back to you and answer.
That's true. I've done that. So what was that about? And I'll get an answer from you or Joe or whoever. But, again, if you think IndyCar's sleeping, they're not sleeping. So if you subscribe for the whole year, you'll find out who's testing, what's going on, who's doing new driver changes or whatever's going on, or new sponsors that come on, and you'll find out.
And there are a few teams testing in November at Phoenix, actually. Andretti's got their 3 drivers. Hinchcliffe is testing at the same day, and then the 4 Penske guys are testing at Phoenix the week after. I don't think the Hondas and Chevys are going to test a lot together until probably that big test in February. Yes.
Interesting. Well, I hope that Honda gets straightened out and gets together, because I think the 2016 season could be good for them. And, of course, the problem is they want to make some changes to pick up the pace. And it's racing. That's the whole idea. If you start out together and see which team is better. Where did I read? Rick Mears' comments. I saw an article about Rick Mears and his comments on what needs to happen. And if you read it, it makes an awful lot of sense.
Yeah,
what he wants to do.
When racing talk comes and Rick's talking, he's one to listen to. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. You know, he wants more power, less downforce. And I think that's a pretty common complaint or common request. But like you mentioned before, it costs money to make horsepower. And the engine manufacturers have got it to the point where they want to spend X amount of dollars, and I understand that. So the horsepower is set at what the horsepower is set at. And I think something that doesn't get mentioned a lot is we broke a lot of track records this year with 300 less horsepower than they were set with originally. So there's been development work. It just hasn't been on the engine side. It's been on the chassis side.
I think he also said cut out some of the downforce, make the drivers drive the car. They're easier to drive. They're more response. You'll feel stuff better. And he had a lot to say that was very, very interesting. And
cutting down the cornering speeds on ovals would not be the worst thing in the world.
No, because he said you pick it up on the straightaway anyway.
Yep.
So, and he says, in his opinion, that stuff would make for better racing. He's not into pack racing. Close racing is one thing, but pack racing he's not real happy with for any length of time. So I think, and a guy who's got his record, somebody to listen to.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree.
Well, I'll tell you what, I appreciate you coming. hopefully I haven't done bad, so I call you up. You'll come back again.
I'll be back anytime. Thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed it.
It was a pleasure. And if you get a chance, if you haven't subscribed to Trackside, go to tracksideonline.com and subscribe to it. I said $22, big deal. But you'll find out what in the world is going on with IndyCar and the Mazda Road to Indy program. And then you'll find out, if Jason Penix is doing his job. I thank you for being here, sir.
No,
Appreciate
thank you so much for having me.
Trackside Online reporter, Mr. Steve Whitty. I have somebody I've invited for next week that I know you're going to want to hear. I didn't hear back yet. I think he's traveling somewhere with somebody. I don't know. But go to autosportradio.com and click on the tab that says Current Show. When I get the guests, they'll be there. And I think this will be somebody you want to hear from. So until next week, Don Kay saying thanks for watching, thanks for being here, thanks for listening. Until next week, good night. And for those of you in-house here who would be interested in going to the Christmas gift and hobby show at the fairgrounds, the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, or 15th, I have a pair of tickets. If anybody is interested, let me know. I got a pair of tickets you're welcome to. Until next week, again, good night. See you then.
I found it online, the date, the time, the place, and the price.
Oh, I was thinking quarter.
Yeah. I found it online.
I'm sorry?
Can I have one of the tickets?
Oh, I'll give you two of them. What am I going to do with one?
I have to figure out somebody to go with me.
How about that little alcoholic next to you?
Okay.
I'll go with you. We went last year. We had a blast.
My dad's cousin worked at our theater, so my dad did